David Miscavige, the leader of the Scientology Cult, has been known to be quite a violent figure. In this story today with Carriere, she's going to take us into 70 of the top executives have to play musical chairs for their lives. We are MythVision. Welcome back to MythVision Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Lambert. I'm joined today by Carriere. How are you, Karen?
Derek, wonderful to see you. Hey, hi everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Please tell us what you brought, because there's always something interesting pertaining to the cult of Scientology. What are you bringing for us today on this episode?
You know, Derek, I think this episode truly reveals the word cult as relates to Scientology. I got to give credit to the guy who leaked it to the world. His name is Mark Headley, and he wrote the Bible on life at the hierarchy called Blown for Good. I think I've mentioned him before. Blown. He left. He just left. And he wrote this story on the internet, and it has the celebrity of being the most read post of all time. It was reposted in every Scientology thing, and it literally hit a few million views. The story was so electrifying to the world of Scientology and ex-Scientologists. So this story is of the most widely read story posted on the internet of all time. And he called it INT Base Musical Chairs. David Miscavige was on a rampage to his mindset was, if I'm incredibly cruel and just lambaste people into a pulp, it's almost like Putin. It's almost like what Putin is doing. I'll kill your civilians. I'll kill your children. I'll go to your hospitals. I'll go to your schools and nurseries, and I'll pulverize.
It's fear.
Your submission. That's what Putin is doing right now with Ukraine, no?
Right. It's a fear thing, a fear, control.
Right. But it's savage. The implementation is savage. It's not just trying to, human life means nothing. He's going to pulverize civilians, children, anywhere. Well, that's a David Miscavige mindset. He decided that if he pulverized these Sea Org member executives and made them just completely, utterly in fear and dominated, that he would get better production out of them. It's crazy, because if you make someone so harmed, your mental facilities are less. You can't operate. Anyway, he had 70 of the top executives of the planet, the hierarchy, in lockdown. They were in 2 double-wide trailers, not allowed to go home to sleep. They had to sleep on the floor under their desk. No bed, no blanket, no pillow, just sleep on the floor. They couldn't take showers. They had Oliver Twist slop to eat twice a day. And they were in lockdown. But how could he make it worse? He wanted to control them and make them into dots. So one day, he told his inner circle, he had this bright idea. They were going to play a game. And the game was musical chairs.
I wonder where this is going.
Well, he was going to have 69 chairs there, one less than. All the dust and everything was removed, and it was just a circle of chairs. And he was going to play Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. And the moment the music stopped, everyone had to grab a chair. And the person that didn't grab the chair was going to be offloaded. Offloaded means kicked out of Scientology into the wilderness. Now, some of these were married, so they'd never see their spouse again.
Oh, man.
It's unbelievable. He had the power to do this. So the music started playing, and people just grabbed a chair. These are people with no driver's license, no bank account. They cut themselves off from any relatives. There was no life for them that they knew about. Just like in FLDS, the only life they know is that community. This is the only life these people had ever known. And the thought of being tossed off, put on a Greyhound bus and told to get lost. So they were fighting for these chairs. Now, Derek, give me some. Life was hell. They couldn't even have sleep in their own bed. They did seances of screaming at each other for their. They were supposed to confess more crimes against David Miscavige. They lived a life of hell on earth, but they were fighting to stay by grabbing a chair. Give me some comments.
I honestly cannot imagine knowing this is it. This could be it for me, and I'm done. I have nothing. So it's almost like people in World War II who are starving to death, and they throw food in there, and people are killing the other person to get the food because they're starving to death. Mm-hmm. You're literally taking people who are willing to become savages just to survive. Mm-hmm. So much that morals kind of probably look like they're going to go out the window. Am I right? I mean, it's like screw this person. I'm gonna punch him out of the way of the chair so I can have a chair, so I'm not getting kicked out. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you would say would fit the description? I mean,
yeah, he was running a terror campaign, and Scientology has travel agency privileges because they were booking so many flights. I don't know how they pull this off, but they do. And they can tell if you take a plane and they type in your name, they can tell what flight you have and where you're going.
Right.
We've been doing this spy thing with a travel agency for decades. So because they had a travel agency, they printed out the names of these people with various destinations. Mm. And they showed them in a break. This is where you'll be going. To Wagga Wagga, Australia, to Namibia in Kenya, Africa. You know, you're gonna be just shipped there. This is the tickets were printed out, and these people were terrorized, absolutely terrorized. So the game went on for hours, and they were down to the last 20 people. And now it became brutal. Now it became Lord of the Flies. These people head-butted and slammed each other, and chairs were broken. They just became so fierce. You can imagine the tugging strength to break a wooden chair. They were hurling, they were punching each other like wrestlers, mud wrestlers. They were just, it became a savage. David Miscavige enjoyed seeing how he could get CO members to beat up and pulverize other CO members. This was joyful to David Miscavige because he's a monster.
Yeah, that's sad.
He's a monster. Day after day, his actions show how similar he is to Putin. No regard. Where's the humanity in this? It's supposed to be a religion. They scream in the law courts. We're a church, ecclesiastical. What is ecclesiastical about an incident like this? You tell me.
Right. No, cult, if you mean. I can't imagine this being some, just an establishment we call a church. No, I mean, most churches don't practice these type of things. The question I have, if I might, probing into this, is just, did any of these people speak out? How many people out of this group spoke about this horrendous experience? Do you know?
I think quite a few. I think quite a few. So a lot of them have departed and gone by
Right,
now.
right.
2005, things got worse and worse. A ploy that was used was medical. If you come up with a big medical condition, they don't want to pay the bills. So they offload you to, there's a guy who slaved for them for 40 years. He just brought people. He was a South African charming guy called Owen Starkey. And he slaved for them for 40 years. But once he got ill, they tossed him back to South Africa to pay for his own medical. And now he's a street busker. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sitting on the street with a guitar, with a hat, hoping for people. So after 40 years in Scientology, he lives on the streets singing. He's an old man, singing for a few pennies to be thrown in his hat. This is how Scientology treat their older people. So back to musical chairs. One, on a break, Miscavige ran into someone who had tears running down his face, and he said, what's up? And he said, well, I'll never see my wife again. Miscavige was like, meh. Anyway, on with the game, on with the music. And so it was a night of torment. And then all the people who didn't grab that last chair, they were all, put into one side and stuff. And then the next morning, David Miscavige announced a change of plan. Too expensive to send 70 people on flights. All canceled. Go back to where you were. So the whole thing was a gaslighting. And David Miscavige printed off these false tickets. There was no intention to really get losing 70 of your prime executives that have managed and run Scientology for the last 20, 30 years, booting them all out in one fell swoop. So what would that do? So it was all canceled. It was all huff and puff, and it was all fake. So they didn't go. So
it was a control thing, though. He's wanting to show who's in charge. He really wants to show who's. I don't know if there's more behind it that we just don't know as to what caused him to go into this fit of power hungry. Let me show you why I'm in charge. Maybe there were rumors going around, and rightly so, that he just kept hearing, and it's time that I shut up the leadership in this church and they understand who's in charge. That's the kind of narcissist I imagine him to be after speaking to his own father. I'm not making this up. You're not making this up. We talked to his dad. You were a co-host with his dad, and his dad was a great guy. I mean, the one time I got to interview him, he laid it out there, just the crazy stuff. So I wonder if there was a lot going on in rumors. There's birds chirping here and there, and he catches wind of it. Some little butt-kissing leader in the group comes, hey, David, this is what's going on. They're saying these things. I'll show them. Putin, Stalin, Hitler, let's show them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I imagine him doing.
There's, the old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Miscavige likes to exert his power. He's got a lust for power.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really cruel. When I say Scientology is unforgiving, it not only has no benevolence or kindness, it treats its own staff and CO members with ultimate cruelty.
You call it like cannibalism, like it is.
Dog eat dog. It all eats dog eat dog. So when this story was told in depth, and anyone can Google INT Base Musical, I've made it live by giving you a descriptive thing, but it is the most widely read, and this is where Scientology's image, this was almost a game changer. People were too scared to speak out on Scientology, and then this essay appeared on what was really going on. A cuckoo's nest, one flew over. The INT base hierarchy were acting crazy. Well, mostly they were victims. It was David Miscavige that was acting up. So there's a little anecdote to give you a little insight.
Yeah.
Why Scientology is in a free fall. Tell me before we end off.
Yeah.
Can such bad PR be repaired even in 10 years? I mean, I don't see that such...
You have to start over. I just can't see how you could with people like that. That would leave for most of them PTSD in this situation, I would imagine. And for people who are tuning in, I can't imagine under Miscavige's leadership that would change. In fact, some of the few ex-Scientologists I've talked to, they've said, like, I think I would have remained a Scientology, like a follower of this whole thing, if there was a decent leader. But because he's such a horrible person, I can't practice the philosophy of Scientology anymore. And there are people who are, this is the thing that really gets me. You know, I'm a skeptic, Karen. You know, I come at things and I'm like, I don't buy it. I'm very cautious in believing in things, even if there's practical use to a lot of this stuff. I can cherry pick those ideas and say, that's a good idea that Scientology teaches. That one, not so good. That one's a good idea that Christianity teaches. Not so good. That one's a good one. In any religion, I can do that. But there are people who I've talked to, not on air. You're like the number one person I've talked to on air, but that have told me, Derek, I liked a lot of the teachings, a lot of the things. And they said, but if it weren't, if we had a different leader, I may not have completely blown. I may have figured out a way to come back or something. But as far as having David Miscavige as the leader, they cannot find themselves being in there. He has too many sins on his hands to be in the position he's in. So they cannot live that way. I wonder, and I'm thinking hypothetical because I don't care that people believe. I just don't want people to be hurt. There's a big difference between whatever you believe is whatever you believe. But if it is causing you and others harm, or it's creating harm for others, I don't like it. I wonder if a new shift in power happened and it wasn't a narcissist, it was someone that was benevolent, how many of these people who are ex-Scientologists would possibly entertain going back in because they found something that they liked in the philosophy? I don't know. I think it's rotten to the core personally after reading L. Ron Hubbard and seeing a lot of the stuff that he says, but there's people I think would entertain it if there wasn't a dictator running the show.
Good answer. Yeah.
So yeah, like as we're going, don't we want our audience to please tell us what do you think about this episode? But also, if you have any ideas, let's say you've heard of something, you want to hear deeper into these things that David Miscavige has committed, these horrible acts. There's a lot of stuff that he has done through the years that we could try and highlight. But if there are ideas, right, Karen, that they might have about Scientology and they're interested in hearing it, they can comment and we'll consider making that a show. You have insider knowledge. So
we did that. One commenter put, can you talk about Captain Bill? Boom, we did a Captain Bill video.
Yep.
We actually read the comments. So if you've got a want that you want to hear about, or a rumor or a piece of this or that, Derek and I will be happy to give you, if your comment will lead into a show. And yeah. So go give Derek a little money. Go sign on and be a little patron, even if it's a few dollars a month. Go sign up.
Yeah, that's all it costs to join as a patron.
Yeah, and you get to view, even before he airs, as a Patreon, you get little perks.
Yep.
Or if you don't want to be a patron, give him a one-time little, just send him a little money, because there is no paycheck for these. This is a fan-supported forum. Only the fans keep it alive by
Karen, thank you.
with this and that.
I really appreciate that.
Guys, look forward to seeing you on our next show. Derek and I have plans, right, Derek?
Yes.
Bye bye, everybody. Big hug to you, Derek.
You too.
Big hug to you. Take care, sweetheart. Bye bye.
Thank you. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we are MythVision.